Hi, Ashley. I'm providing you a review of your informative speech. So here we go. All right. So the speech was due on July 14th. I received your speech on July 16th. You mentioned that you had some issues in regards to glitches. So thank you for letting me know about that. Taken that into consideration. You recorded it live, and you did mention to me certain issues that happened in regards to your audience and not getting that on the gallery. So you may have received my email in regards to what you need to do, and the fact that I have considered this speech for a grade. However, this does speech, as you know, doesn't fit IAI requirements. So in the last two speeches, last two, actually three, in addition to your debate speech, you will have to fulfill all the II requirements. Now, I have also provided you support in order to do this successfully. If you are not able to understand how to get your Zoom recording to get your audience on the screen, you will need to get in touch with Wabonsi Instructional Technology team, and a Wabonsi Tutorial Center also exists to also be a part of your live audience. The tutors can act as your live audience as well. So you can do a little bit of test drive, demo drive before your speech day. You don't even have to have a full prepared speech to do that. Just to get acclimatized with how to do things, I think would be helpful. So you also have the support. Now, let me talk about your informative speech. So as I mentioned, okay, so this wasn't it. Let me tell you about things that worked out first, and then things that could have been better. All right. So let's say I did not see anything wrong with your audio or visual quality. Both were good. I have nothing to say about that. Now let's go to your audience engagement strategies. I did see vocal variety within your speech. There were moments of high tone and low tone, and then I did see facial expressions, especially when you were showing your frustration about how people are not cognizant about how much time they spend on technology. And here we go. Right. All right. Here we go. All right. So here I will say, in terms of audience engagement, I did see there was nothing wrong with the pace of the speech. I also noticed that you had some effective use of silence in key places. You did use that quite often, and I didn't see any vocalized pauses. That was kind of distracting. So no, I did not see that. And let's go here. I did see that you used three visual aids. I feel that your visual aids did, of course, increase comprehension. The time spent was for a 6 minute speech. I think it was adequate amount of time, and it did appeal to a social thinker and a conceptual thinker. Okay, all right. So these are the things that worked out well. Now, what are the things that you could have done better? Let's go to that. Now, I will say that your first thing, let's go from here. I did not see any note cards. You needed to show me, all of you needed to show me note cards, and I didn't see any note cards that were shown to me before the speech. Now, the second thing is that you had a very close view of yourself on on the screen. So what it did is, I always kind of reference TED Talks to all of you. So if you see a TED Talk, even though if you're watching it online, you probably see a full figure. Now, I'm not expecting for any of you to have a great production quality like a TED Talk. No way. I know that you have a webcam and you can do all you can with the webcam, right? But the only thing that I expect is not a Zoom call quality picture. Okay, so right now I just have a half pass or something that I would expect somebody to be on a Zoom call. This is more than a Zoom call. This is a speech. This is a public presentation. So what we can do is you can go back and try to give me as much as view as possible. Okay. So that's something that you may want to work on. And I did see that you had enough space in the room to go back. All right. So that's something that you can work on. Now, the second thing you can do is here. Now, here, contact was compromised because I saw you so close to the screen. It was very difficult for me to understand whether you were reading it off the screen or whether you had memorized, right? In both the situations, that is something that you do not want to do. Reading off the screen uh, is against what we are learning. We don't want to read it off the screen. You're supposed to be prepared. You're supposed to do an impromptu presentation where you have the note cards and you talk about the points, uh, just like you're doing a conversation. So if it's either memorized or you're reading off the screen, both will not work. And it seemed that it was either or. It seemed. May not be the case, that, but it seemed. So what you can do is, for me to not think this way, is show me the note cards and go much further back from the camera as much as possible. Now, use of gestures and movement. I did see a few gestures, like when you were pointing out with your fingers the numbers, but I didn't see movement within your speech. It was very close to camera, and it was like there was no movement at all. So you may want to make the movement there, which will help the audience to kind of picture you as a speaker more than somebody, who's kind of uh, really, really close to us, and we are not able to see the whole picture. So use of descriptive and engaging language. Now, this is something that also you need to work on. Make your sentences shorter, right? And I was actually thinking, how can you remember so much? Like so many things that you said, wow, and that must have been very hard for you to remember so much. So such long sentences is good for an audience who is reading, or who's reading to you as opposed to listening. Whenever when an audience is listening to you, you need to provide shorter sentences, lots of rhetorical questions, short, pithy phrases. So those are the things that you can do to make it like engaging, some small little proverbs that most people know. So those are things that you can make it, you can actually make it transition from a speech written for an audience who's reading as opposed to somebody who's listening to your speech. Now, second thing here, as I said, the flow is, the pace was good. The flow could have been more effective, like a conversation. It seemed scripted. Your speech seemed scripted. There were some moments when I just, oh wow, now there I can see a little bit of passion here, especially when you were showing your frustration as to what people are doing with the current habits, right, that they have. So that's when the passion, that's when it was becoming a conversation. But that happened much later, much later within your speech. I did see use of silence was done. I did see use of silence in key places, and you could have had some effective repetition. Again, repetition could come through rhetorical questions, the way it would be strategically asked, some questions with some effective repetition of key phrases. That would be helpful for, again, an audience who's listening to you. Vocalized pauses, I didn't see that there was rs, anything that is distracting. So nothing that I could see that was distracting for me. I did see that you had 3 visual aids. I think that the visual aids increase comprehension, but if you want to take this even higher, you may want to do something for an audience who are more of your analytical thinker or a structural thinker. Analytical thinker would make it, let's say you have some points of comparison to what happens to the brain when the brain is doing this versus what happens to a brain who's resting, what happens to the brain, maybe some cross-functional studies. A structural thinker would see what are the things that goes wrong in step-by-step basis. So those kind of visual aids would have kind of also helped these two kind of thinkers, analytical and structural. Now, I did see that your visual aid was probably the one that, she was sleeping, and this is what happens, when you have that laptop on your face. Then you can I can think about myself as a social thinker, and get really influenced by that, or a conceptual thinker as well, people who think in concepts. So yeah, so that's something that you may, and I think the visual it's kind of adequate and increased comprehension. But if you want to even step it up, you can think about this. I didn't see, and beyond the 6 minutes 30 seconds, I did not hear the speech because that was the time. That's the cutoff. It is very important for us to be on time for our speech. Anything, let's say your audience knows that you are doing a 6 minute speech and you go on more than that. This time you spent for 9 minutes, audience is not going to engage with you. It also requires respect for the other person who's waiting perhaps to talk, right? There could be several situations, but respecting time and doing it within time is an art, and it's a discipline, and you've got to use the same message is going to be there, but with lesser words. How do you do that? That's a skill in itself. So these are the things that you may want to work at. I have told you the things that worked out well and the things that could have been better. You also made you asked me, I think saw your email in regards to, I think you were a little anxious, perhaps, that I may have missed your video. No, I did have, I have seen your video, and I've now have responded to it. If the video appears a little later than the time, then it goes into a different grading cycle. And that's something that you need to know. If it is sent to me on time, it gets graded with the rest of the class. But if it's not, then it goes into a different grading cycle. And sometimes my comments are also as going to be not going to be very detailed because I have moved on, right? So you need to be cognizant of that as well. So thank you. Hope this is helpful.